Okay, so we're gonna pick up on part two. We're gonna pick up where we left off at here. Um, let's see, let's go on up. If they come out here, out of their jurisdiction, and bother me, there has to be some way to retaliate. If the government was to say tricked to come in, if the people in the government had no regulatory power over me and I had no power over them directly, but they tricked me and coerced me into doing business with them and making agreements that I knew nothing about, they must have known that they were doing something wrong. They must have known have that they could not come out here and do business with me, that they had to figure out a way to make me come in and do business with them. The people in the government had to know that they were doing this and had to know it was wrong. And the unique thing about the government wrongdoers is that they always set up a way for them to right what is wrong. Always. All right, so this is the part two of the Fraud Everywhere introduction with the silent aggression series. Get you guys thumb drives from moorishtravler at gmail.com. You just send out and put in there if you friend, family, or foe. It'll be $25 for the thumb drive that will have 11 gigs plus information on it, including videos, sound bites, full lectures. We're going to have everything on here that's been dealing with your economics. That's the bottom line to it. How do we live better here in the States? And that's really what's going on. That's really what this is about. It's not necessarily you rebelling and doing all this stuff about, you know, these governments and people that's governing. Okay, so it's nothing like that. You're not even getting in that type of situation. What you're doing is finding out a way how to right what is wrong. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Finally, I decided to take somewhere. Decided that somewhere back in the 14th Amendment there must be a remedy for me to get back out of doing business in there with the people of the government, to get back out of the mess of the 14th Amendment that they built to entrap us. It is there, and I found it. And what it is, I am going to show you here today. All right. Remedy is a term, expose fraud, Constitution is a fraud. All right. So the remedy is expose the fraud. I'm going to show you how to expose the fraud created by the 14th Amendment by using the remedy available in the 14th Amendment itself. I will show you how to get out from underneath what this government created by using the remedy they set up for all to use. I have said before many times that the Constitution of the United States was one of the biggest frauds ever perpetrated on the face of the earth. Indeed, it was. The concept that we believe what it applies to us and gives us rights is also a fraud. I have upset a lot of people with that statement, and one man got so upset he began a search to prove me wrong. I made him so mad that it caused him to get up and go work to find out how he got where he was on his own instead of just listening to me. And he found a court case while he was attempting to prove me wrong, and the case was this. Mr. Burroughs sued the city of Baltimore because they did some excavation work on some land right behind his building, which was located on the waterfront. He had a marine business where he bought a ship and unloaded them. The city of Baltimore excavated work, silted the harbor, and the point where the ships could not go in and out of his wharf. He filed a claim against the city and stated that the city had effectively taken his property without giving him compensation for it. He claimed that and violated the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. Here's what the judge had to say about the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution and the Constitution itself. The provisions of the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States declaring that private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. It's intended solely as a limitation on the exercise of the power by the government of the United States. So, why would they refer to the first 10 amendments as the Bill of Rights? The judge just said that the Fifth Amendment was a limit of power. Why not call it a Bill of Limitations? The only answer that comes to mind is that the government must be the one with the rights. It has those rights all the way up to the limitations spelled out in the first 10 amendments. The Bill of Rights is only for the people in government. The judge went on to say, it's not applicable to the legislation of the states, but the 14th Amendment altered that statement later on, since the case was 1833. Excuse me. The 14th Amendment in 1866 supposedly extended the Bill of Rights to the states. I am going to show that it still had nothing to do with me and you. If it was intended solely for the limitations of the exercise of the power of the government of the United States, then the Bill of Rights and the Constitution were intended for the United States only. They were not intended for the people of America who were not citizens and not residents within the government. It did not apply to them. In essence, that segment is saying that the Constitution, you're not a party to it. It was designed for you. So you walk in and say, constitutional rights is not really applied to you. Now, you say that they've been getting away with doing it, Second Amendment, First Amendment rights, and hold your guns and so on and so forth. That's all an illusion. They want you to feel that way, and you use that to your advantage. But you see what's going on around you. They're slowly shrinking your ability to function. Okay. The judge continued. The Constitution was ordained and established for the people of the United States for themselves. Sorry about that. For their own government and not for the government of the individual states. That's pretty much limited. It goes right back to what I told you this other definition in Corpus Juris said about it being self regulating. It's only had internal power to make laws and regulations for itself. The government has the power to regulate itself, and only itself. It does not have the power to regulate the people and the states. The government has internal power only until a business deal is established and a contract is signed. He goes on to explain further. Each state establishes a constitution for itself. Now, you guys take a look at that. You guys go and find out whatever state you in, do they have a constitution? Find out if that's true. Okay. And in each constitution is provided such limitations and restrictions on its powers as its particular government's judgment dictated. In essence, each state has their own constitution, and each constitution says the rules by which the state must function and how they treat the people. So you'll find other organizations or other people individually will do things that may be against the state's mandates. But the state's supposed to mandate this happens, and that happens in this manner, in this way, at this time, these days, this rules, and this applies to that. Okay, that's everyone has to follow those rules that participate in the activities of the state governing the people. However, the people may rebuttal against those, and that's where your limitation comes in at. They can, they're not supposed to come down there and by law force you into doing something. You have to stand up and be counted. Okay, the people of the United States formed such a government for the United States as they suppose best adapted to their situation and best calculated to promote their interest. That fits the corporate understanding very well. Their interests were to go into business and make a profit. They established a corporation and they called it the United States. The people of the United States are the people in the government only. It is just that simple. They are not the same as the people of America. They have different status. Now we're talking about status. If the government had included all the people in America, it would have stated, "We the people of America," at the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution. Instead, it reads, "We the people," okay, of the corporation known as the United States, at the beginning of the preamble. See, there is a definite separation of power. So what you got to do is go and look at the preamble. We're not going to do that today. You need to go and do that. So you're going to take a look at that and see if the wording is correct. If not, send an email or wait until we get into the report discussions, and then you can throw your stuff out on the table during open forum time. All right. You and I that do not work for the government are not entitled to do things that the people in the government do. We, you and I, are not entitled to vote. Why should we even be interested in voting? What do we care about the laws they make if their laws do not apply to us? No wonder we're not entitled to vote. Remember? We're entitled to vote. You have to vote, fight to vote. All right. A real tricky way to get you involved with doing business with the government is to offer you the right to vote. If you do not know any better, you might even accept it. If you have the right to vote, the government could not offer it to you. It can offer only privileges, and they cannot be taken back. Rights cannot be taken back. Rights cannot be given. They can be waived. As soon as you accept the offer to vote, you sign your name on a piece of paper which goes into the government file, and you are in the government. Now you're registered to vote by deception. Most anything can be accomplished. They accomplish telling and getting you into the government when you would not have done so otherwise. All this fighting to vote, all this arguing to vote. Whatever was the best suited to their situation and whatever best calculated to promote their interests was all the people of the government had in mind. The powers that they conferred on this government were there exercised by itself. It had no power over the states. The limitation on the power, if expressed in general terms, they were naturally and necessarily applicable to the government created by the instrument. The Bill of Rights applies to the government only and the people in the government. So, created by the instrument. Keep getting into that. And we went over here. Remember, we had created by the instrument. And then what we have over here? Negotiable debt instruments. What we got going on over here? The highest account at the Office of Record is the UCC1 financing statement, where a U.S. citizen as debtor entity has transferred control of assets and collateral to a natural person who is not a U.S. citizen but is an authorized representative pursuant UCC 3402. Now, the highest officer of record, the Secretary of State, has recorded a bona fide claim. The only thing that can defeat this claim is proper previous UCC1 financing instruments. Interesting. UCC1 financing statement where a U.S. citizen as a debtor entity has transferred control of assets and collateral to a natural person who is not a citizen, who is not a U.S. citizen, but an authorized representative. As previously shown, all negotiable instruments fall under UCC Article 9. Security interest. The secured party is protected from evasive collateral transfers where debt to the United States are concerned or considered fraudulent, except were covered by UCC Article 9 security interests. Note, all who act as fiduciary, buying, selling, leveraging, discounting, or brokeraging paper of any kind are simply moving debt. So what is that saying? We got to get into the UCCs and get into that stuff so you get an understanding about that and decide where you want to get involved. Bottom line is, paper of any kind is simply being moving debt. Those people who call you in regards to they need their money for whatever, utilities and all that. Some people have get a better leverage because, right, utility, they can just cut your water off, cut your lights off, right, if you don't have a power source, water source. Cars, they just come pick your car up. My goodness, I'm just having such a hard time this evening. I'm breathing. It's like I don't know what is going on. You know, I just had that pneumonia not too far back in this year, and it messed up one of my lungs, and it put me out of Slavertude that I was doing previously back in February of 2022. So it, you know, jacked me up a little bit right there. Yeah, let's get back. We get back to some of this over here. All right. All right. Okay. So, Bill of Rights applies to the government only and the people in the government. Therefore, you and I do not have constitutional rights. Only the people in the government have the constitutional right. And when they say the people in the government, they're really talking about your senator, your representative, so on and so forth that you sent out there, your elected official that you place in there. They have constitutional rights, but not you. People used to tell me that I was out of my mind for saying that. They would ask, what do you think we have this wonderful Christian government for? It is to give us rights. I would say that I do not agree with that. I think that God gave us rights before the government ever existed. The government is the one that needed the people to let the government create some rights for their own to apply to themselves in the government. It is at the leisure of the people in the states that the government has created in the first place and let the people of the government exist. If the people do not like it, they can abolish the government. American can only be free again if the corporation known as the United States were abolished. I did not expect to get much help in that effort until they picked a new wizard over there in Oz. The new Wizard of Oz, at the time of this writing, y'all see, was Billy Clinton, is running American corporations out of the country at record rates. He is running the biggest portion of his own government's tax base out of the country. That is revenue to support the United States of America Incorporated. He has done more in a few months to destroy the United States than all of the rest of the anti government movement has done in the last 50 years. He may very well destroy about 98% of the corporation called the United States in his first term alone. There may be some chaotic times ahead. If this happens to becomes apparent, there will be more police control to prevent the fall, but it looks inevitable. Property will be confiscated, a fight if necessary. Remember that I lost a house, 2008. Many of you might have lost the homes. Here to go talking about property be confiscated. Property wasn't confiscated in the terms and the way that you think. Property would be confiscated with a fight if necessary. It wasn't necessary. They call it economic, what do they call it? Um, Recession? Yeah. Housing market bubble, it pops, exploded. Yeah. There are reports that the The United Nations troops are being trained at the abandoned military bases around the country to help to control of the people when all the property is taken for payment of the debt to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of England. There are reports of troops all over the country and on each border, Mexico and Canada. Something seems to be in the making here. You talk about Border Patrol, you talk about, the people coming in from other countries back in '03. They were talking about, the terrorist organizations coming down through Canada, coming up through Mexico. They talk about, you know, people coming over on the boats that are coming from Haiti or any of those Caribbean countries where they've had some type of crisis, and they say, well, those people are floating around on the boats, and those boats are going to be people to undermine things that goes on here. You got to think about all that stuff. Think about all that stuff. Okay, the money system is about to collapse, and the American people are striving to struggle to keep it from collapsing. The people do not realize that this system is bad for them, and that if they would quit struggling so hard to support it, we could get away from it sooner. The people in the government are trying to make it collapse, but we will not let it. They will win over one day, and we'll all be issued new money, and our property will be placed in the hands of the holders entirely. But if we keep struggling for what we think is ours, they will have to bring in the troops and make us quit struggling, and then keep the peace in America with numerous troops in the streets. The people that inhabit this country, America, will not wake up until it hits them in the face and it hurts. You know, their cars. Yes, their cars. You can do anything to the American people, even charge over 20% interest on borrowing to pay for your luxuries and necessities alike. You can take their kids away in buses to public brain laundries, which is school. You can even make them pay taxes and insurance that amount to over 80% of their pay, but do not fool with their cars. When that happens, look out. The other thing is to look out for is the day that all the pensions are cut off. The government is hoping that therefore anything big happens, that the majority of the World War II and Korean veterans will be dead and gone so that they will not have to face them and their dependents. But there are other types of pension holders. They will just be as mad. They may not have proven battle records and may not know how to fight in hand to hand combat. But a little lady with a big iron skillet is still a force to be faced. There may be millions of them too. The Rodney King incident shows that the justice system in the United States should be spelled just us. It is just for them, the police and others in the government at all levels. Those officers should all be taken in jail for the treatment of anyone, the manner that they treated Rodney King. The scum that beat him up should answer for it. But it is their law. It is made for them. The Holocaust at Waco proved that when they murdered innocent Americans, there was nobody to stop them. Who will stop them in other towns around America next? Who stopped them at Randy Reaver's place? What about Gordon Call? He was burned also. But the government wants us to think that they're taking care of us. The government even created the Department of Human Resources, which is where your mother placed your body at birth. Yes, your mother signed a birth certificate in your name and placed your body into the government vault. You were identified by your name on the paper. If you were missed there, they set up a social security system for you to sign your own into the vault at the Social Security Administration building. You are the property of the government. Babylon has taken away the children. They control the bodies of the children and everyone else that fills out the forms for the government. Babylon has taken all the property or stores, as the Bible refers to them. It has been accomplished through paper documents known as instruments. Okay, let's stop and go over here. Instruments. Instruments. Negotiable instruments. We're still talking business. Interesting. Instruments. All right. For those that want out of jurisdiction of the United States, law has been provided for anyone to be able to extricate or expatriate when they reach the age of 18. Look up the corpus juris secundum under citizens. Okay, so when you turn 18, you say you're grown, right? And then they say you're 21, you can drink. Now you know why 18 you're grown. Because you're supposed to be doing the work of men and women. That means you're supposed to know this stuff that we kind of discussing. And if you don't, you are a minority. You're a minor. You're still a child. Okay. The deed to your land is not in your hands. The deed to your land is not in your hands. If it is filed in the public records in the court, the government has it. The government is the holder of due course. You just do the maintenance of it to keep the vault up or the value up. You just manage it for the bank or the government if the bank is paid off. Okay, so here we go. You just manage it for the bank or the government if the bank is paid off. So you got a couple of things going on there. Who pays the bank off? You? You could be another way. The title to your car is not in your hands. It is filled with the state. It is filed with the state, and they allow you to register it while they hold the original title. They give you what? A certificate of title that you have in your top drawer at home. Certificate of title and the true original title are two very different pieces of paper. Which one do you have? Do you have your car? Most people do not. The state does because they hold the true title. Look at it. See for yourself. Manufacturer Statement of Origin, MSO, is the actual bill of sale and title. The dealer gives the MSO to the bank or the government when you buy the car. Ask them about it. The Constitution is alive and well and does not need any help from the patriotic groups around that want to restore the Constitution or help preserve the Constitution or repair the Constitution. None of these things can be accomplished and do not need to be. The government is living under it very well and prospering at our expense. It is very healthy as far as they are concerned, and since it is written for them by them, it is doing very well. Article 2 in the Congress had the power from the very beginning to create uniform bankruptcy law. What a setup. What are we living under today? We're living under bankruptcy. The framers put that there is so that the situation of bankruptcy could exist and put law or all law under the uniform bankruptcy laws and the bankruptcy courts in order to control and monopolize every aspect of business in America. That has happened. The one court that cannot be overruled in the United States is the bankruptcy court. Its decisions are superior to all other courts. It cannot be overruled. That makes it the Supreme Court in the United States. Bankruptcy court. All right, what we got here? Talking about negotiable instruments. The U.S. statutes at large perfected the transfer of the economic system of the International Monetary Fund from an asset-based to an interest-based system of exchange. You'll discover the differences between payment and the right to payment by definition under the UCC's rights to payment under contract, not yet earned by performance. as per, and this is the case, this converts that might this converts what might be a worthless promise into a legal obligation, making it subject to transfer by assignment. Since only natural persons can lawfully contract for the entity, there exists no third party with understanding to challenge the security agreement. Negotiable instruments are non cash items. You can look at these regulations. Here's the bankruptcy court. That's what I was trying to get to before we jump back over. U.S. is Chapter 11 reorganization. That's Chapter 11. That's bankruptcy. Lacking the solvency to pay any debt. That's bankruptcy. Therefore, there must be a receiver, originally the Secretary of the Treasury, under this here and at this page. The presumed lien holders are the lending institutions, presumed lending institutions that hold authority granted by corporate municipalities. Corporate municipalities are your governments, local governments. However, under the law of signatures, and gaping holes is torn on that presumption, as no commercial lending institution can grant anything. They only possess a functionary role of facilitating the grant from the true creditor. That creditor is whoever signed the paper, as the authorized representative of the entity on whose behalf the loan is applied. So this is talking about loans where you are the authorized representative of the entity on whose behalf the loan is applied. Okay? I think we have to stop. I think we've run out of time. Stuff gets pretty interesting. Yeah.